So welcome to One Church. If this is your first time here, or maybe second or third, or you're just here and want some more information, you can tap or scan that QR code that's on the front of the seat in front of you. But those who are sitting in the front row, there is a little thing over there that you can tap and scan, and that's going to give you some of the next steps. If you're new, you can fill out the online Connect card, and it's also a way where you can find where you can do giving, and that's one way that we bless God back for blessing us and all that good stuff. But right now, we're getting ready to move into the next part of the service after the welcome, which is one of my favorite, but I love it all. But this is worship time. So if you would just stand to your feet, and I'm going to turn it over to Aaron and Scott.
We're clearing off the surface. We're clearing off the surface. You're coming into focus. We're going back to the basics. The glory of your face is the reason why we do this. The winds of worship blowing, the doors of heaven open. Jesus, you're at the center. Lord, help us to remember the reason why we do this. Yes, it's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. Always has been, always will be. All about you, all about you. Oh. Let's lift his voice. Our priorities are changing, and we remember why you made us. Yeah, we're all sons and daughters, just dancing with our Father. It's not that complicated. Yes, it's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. Always has been, always will be. All about you, all about you. Yes, it's all about you. Yes, it's all about you. Always has been, always will be. All about you, all about you. Every story of impossible miracles, it's all about you. Every story of a prodigal coming home, it's all about you. Every story of revival, I know, it's all about you. Your kingdom's all about lives changed, empty graves. It's all about you. It's every story of impossible miracles. It's all about you. And every story of a prodigal coming home, it's all about you. Every story of revival, I know, it's all about you. Your kingdom's all about lives changed, empty graves. It's all about you. Yes, it's all There is healing. There is healing in the power of the Lord Most High. There is courage in the shadow of His wings. There is peace unending over all my life. There is freedom that washes over me. And I find all I need here in your presence, Lord. I open up my soul and you fill me up with all I need here in your presence, Lord, where blessings overflow. There's always abundantly more. There's rest. There is rest in the goodness of the Lord my God. There is treasure in the kindness of my King. There is comfort in knowing your unfailing love, my provider. You set my spirit free, and I find all I need here in your presence, Lord. I open up my soul and you fill me up with all I need here in your presence, Lord, where blessings overflow. There's always abundantly more. More than I could ask or seek, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. More than I could ask or seek, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. More than I could ask or seek, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. And I find all I need here in your presence, Lord. I open up my soul and you fill me up with all I need here in your presence, Lord, where blessings overflow. There's always abundantly more. More than I could ask or seek, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. More than I could ask or seek, more than I could fathom. God, your love for me is better than I imagined. We are gathered at the highest throne, welcomed by a melody, anthem I have always known, a song that's always been in me. All glory and honor, dominion and power to you. A million angels fall face down on the floor, all to echo, holy is the Lord. My heart can't help but sing with all of heaven roar, forever echo, holy is the Lord. Oh, oh, forever echo, holy is the Lord. Memorized by every heart, written in eternity, every lifted voice apart, joining in the symphony. All glory and honor, dominion and power to you. Oh, all wisdom and wonder belong to no other but you. A million angels fall, face down on the floor, all to echo, holy is the Lord. My heart can't help but sing, with all of heaven roar, forever echo, holy is the Lord. Oh, forever echo, holy is the Lord. Forever echo. Standing at the end of time, there before the throne of grace, majesty before my eyes, let it take my breath away. A million angels fall, face down on the floor, all to echo, holy is the Lord. My heart can't help but sing, with all of heaven roar, forever echo. A million angels fall, face down on the floor, all to echo, holy is the Lord. My heart can't help but sing, with all of heaven roar, forever echo, holy is the Lord. Oh, forever echo, holy is the Lord. Oh, forever echo, holy is the Lord. You guys can have a seat.
Well, hey, good morning. How are you guys? It's good to see you. It's been a crazy week. If for some reason you did not hear what's going on. Last week, I announced that my wife and boys and I, we are heading back to Waukesha, Wisconsin to go back to Riverland Christian Church, where we started out of college, and they sent us back here to plant one church, and lots of tears were shed, and I'm sure I'll shed many more tears over the next few months with you all. But we sent out a clip of that announcement via email, and just so you know, we kept it offline last week, just out of respect for the conversation and respect for Riverland, because we're all coordinating announcements. But that whole service we put back online tomorrow. You can go back if you want to watch the whole service, the whole message if you missed it. But it's been a week. And I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for your support, for your prayers, for your encouragement. I dreaded last week for a long time, and the message and the conversation, but your love, your hugs, your prayers, your just reminding us that we're following God's lead. Thank you for that. It reminds me of how much I love you guys. So I appreciate you all. You mean so much to my family and I. Again, as I mentioned last week, if you have questions or want to talk through this type of a deal, the elders are available to talk. I'm available to meet and talk as well, so feel free to reach out. We can sit down and talk about this whole thing, because change is tough. And this is actually why we designed this series called We the Church, because we are looking at what it means to deal with change and navigate what's coming as one church to begin with, but all while staying focused on the mission of one church to work as one to help people follow Jesus, and the mission of God's Big C church, the overall church, the global church. Because the goal of this series is, as we're walking through this, is to understand that all of us have a role to play in God's church. That if we are a follower of Jesus, that we are in his church, and we have a responsibility to live out the mission that God has given his church to go and make more disciples. And one thing that's true about human beings is none of us really like change. We don't like dealing with change. We just want to rather avoid it. We just keep things the way they are. If we're comfortable with it, don't mess with that, because change can cause fear and cause questions and tensions and apprehensions and doubts. And when something comes up and change comes up in something that you love, and you know, all those negative feelings can start creeping into your thought process and how you move forward. Like, even think about family. We don't like change in our family. Parents, we struggle with our kids growing up and getting to those new stages, and eventually they move out of the house. Or we struggle when our kids start dating and things like that, and they start bringing people over to your house, and you're like, who is this person coming into my house type of a deal. Like, we struggle with change. We struggle with going through those different stages, and we don't long for it. We know it's coming, but we have to deal with that. Or we struggle with changes in our jobs. Maybe there's a new boss, or your company gets bought out and there's restructuring and all these different things. And change is something that we just don't like in any area, even our churches. If we're connected to a church that we love and we serve at, we're growing in our faith, and the last thing we want in our churches is our church to change. And this is what makes this series and this whole thing we're dealing with hard, because we don't want this thing to change. And the reality is, and I would argue this, is that churches should change. I would argue that churches should be more willing to adapt and be able to change whatever comes their way. To do whatever it takes to stay on mission, to adapt to whatever's going on in our culture and our leadership and new challenges that come our way. Our job is very clear from Jesus, and that means we have to adapt how we do things sometimes. I'm reminded of a quote by Craig Groeschel where he says, we will do anything short of sin to reach people who don't know Christ. And I remember hearing that line for the first time years ago and being shocked by it, but he's right though. The church should be willing to do whatever it takes, apart from sin, to build connections, build bridges, build relationships, to help people to come and know and follow Jesus as Lord and Savior. And this means the church needs to adapt and adjust to keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is this: we are disciples of Jesus looking to make more disciples of Jesus. That's what we're all supposed to do. We have to remember that this is God's mission. It's been that way for a long time. He's been doing it for thousands of years, even before the church existed. In the Old Testament, it was all about getting to Jesus. And then it all led to Jesus, and we got to Jesus. And ever since then, it's still all about Jesus. This is the mission. This is the purpose. And along the way, God's people have adapted, no matter what change has come our way, to continue to reach the mission. In fact, this is the whole story of Scripture. And I'll give you a quick overview. This is our Bibles in a nutshell when it comes to change and staying on mission. It started in the beginning with Adam and Eve. where God creates everything, and Adam and Eve are in this paradise, and everything is good, and God walks with them and talks with them, and everything is wonderful. But then change happened because Adam and Eve brought sin into our world, which brought brokenness and death and destruction. It broke that relationship with God, and things changed, and they could no longer live in paradise, but God promised to fix it because he was going to achieve his mission. And so out of that, eventually over some time, God called this guy named Abraham. And Abraham was a guy who, he had his family, he had his hometown, he had his way of living. And God's like, nope, we're going to change all of that. You're going to come follow me. I'm going to raise you up to be a family. And out of that family will eventually become a nation. And out of that nation eventually will become this Messiah, this Savior that's going to fix everything. And that's the mission. And we're going to get there no matter what. And Abraham has to deal with this change, and he's God's chosen person to start that family and nation to bring that Savior, but it dealt with change. But God was going to get his mission done. Eventually, Abraham did become this big family. And this family became so huge, eventually they got put into slavery in Egypt. And more change because they were God's chosen people, but then they were forced to change by being in slavery in Egypt, and things weren't good. It wasn't a good time for them, and they were forced to change and adapt, and they were wondering, where is God in the midst of all of this? But God was faithful to continue his mission, because out of this, he raises up this guy named Moses, who was an Israelite, raised as an Egyptian, and Moses had to come realize that he was this Israelite that God was calling, and God did it through some amazing ways, that God was calling to lead the people out of slavery. They were forced to change and deal with it, and so Moses became their leader. He led them out of slavery in Egypt. He led them towards the promised land. They went through crazy situations, and he was the leader that was supposed to take them to the promised land until he wasn't, because Moses messed up. And his punishment was he couldn't go into the promised land with the people. He would die before they would get there. And so they had to go through more change, and they had to change leadership. So here comes this guy named Joshua, and Joshua leads the Israelites to the promised land to defeat the enemies. They get this land they were promised for so long, generations ago, and he took them there, and everything was looking much better. They finally get their promised land. But then Israel wanted some change. They had God leading them, but they wanted their own king, their own physical king, human king. God's like, that's a change you don't want. But God let them do what they wanted to do, and they got this kingdom set up with real, human male kings in place. And so guys like Saul and David and Solomon start leading the kingdom, and they're meant to follow God's will. They're meant to be a blessing to the world, but they started doing their own things. But good things still took place. They built this temple, and more change was happening. But God was eventually leading this all to his ultimate mission of Jesus. Because this kingdom is what happens with humans, is when humans get power, corruption starts creeping in, and eventually the kingdom of Israel split into two. And they were divided, they were broken, they were against each other, and there were more enemies rising up around them because they stopped trusting in what God was calling them to do. And so in this split kingdom, more change took place, and eventually they were so broken as a nation, they eventually were put in captivity. The enemies came, overtook them, destroyed the first temple. What they thought was the promise of that promised land was now gone, because God was trying to show them something bigger. But they sat and changed, sitting in captivity, but God was still working through it all, because eventually, under captivity in Rome during that time, this guy named Jesus shows up. And God's ultimate mission is in focus, that he was the one to show them it wasn't just a physical kingdom, but a heavenly kingdom, the spiritual kingdom that was going to bring renewal to everything, both now and for eternity. And God shows his mission by sending Jesus. And even in the midst of that, they had to change what they thought about God's mission. Jesus was killed on the cross, that was more change. And then Jesus resurrected, that was more change. But in the midst of everything, God was staying true to the mission. God worked and he adapted through it all, and his people's job is just to trust. Out of Jesus comes the church. We mentioned this last week, that for 2,000 years, the church has been going through tensions and changes, but staying on the same mission. If you want to sum up Scripture as a whole, it's God's in charge. Change is a part of it, and our job is to trust no matter what he's doing. When the Israelites or the church got in trouble, it was because they stopped trusting. When we get in trouble today, it's because we stopped trusting in God's ways and in the calling that he has for our lives. But all throughout Scripture, the writers would say things to remind us that our job is to trust no matter what. Like Proverbs 3:5 says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And I love that last line because we struggle with that. We want to trust ourselves and our own way of doing things and our own thinking, but what the writer says here is our job is to trust God above our own thoughts and understanding. The psalmist writes in Psalm 9, verse 10, those who know your name trust in you, for you, Lord, have never forsaken those who seek you. We're called to trust in who God is and what he's done, and he has never forgotten those who seek him out. If you're struggling in life, the reminder is to seek God in everything you do and trust him in what he calls you to do. God will not forget you. Or Paul writes in Romans 8:28, I love this verse because we misuse it all the time, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. We like quoting this by saying, see, God's going to make everything good. And we misinterpret that by thinking that everything will be good. But the reality is still bad things happen, hard things happen, difficult things happen. The promise is this, that in the midst of every situation, God will work it for good, according to his purposes, because God's mission, God's purposes, God's plans will not fail. There has never been something that God has set out to do that he has not accomplished. No matter what we think, no matter what we do to get in the way, God's going to get done what he plans to get done. And the reminder is this, it's God's plan, it's God's church. It's always God's plan, it's always God's church. I was reminded by a pastor friend last week where he reminded me, we were talking through the announcement and things like that. He goes, just so you know, God has already planned and decided what's going to happen with one church, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I was like, man, I needed to hear that. It's his plan, it's his church. Now, I know we like to say, this is my church, and I go to my church, and we do that. That's fine. What I'm saying, though, ultimately, one church in River Glen, and his Global C Church, it's God's, it's his plan. We are just along for the ride to play a role in it. It's what we're called to do. And our job is to trust God and to play our role in that plan. And as we go through this change, we have to remember this, that we, the church, are to follow God's plan, and we, the church, are to play a part in God's plan and in his church, just like God's been using people to do for thousands of years. And while the change will happen, God's going to do what he wants to do. The mission's going to stay the same. This is what we talked about in week 1. No matter what, the mission stays the same. And throughout this process, I've been reminded of this leadership quote that I've said to myself and told my teams over the years. It's this, Andy Stanley says, we're called to marry the mission but date the model. And what that means is the mission stays the same. We do not stray from the mission. We stay focused on the mission. We are committed and faithful to the mission. But the model of how we accomplish the mission, that can adapt and change. We marry the mission, we date the model. So we can't be so attached to a model and a way of doing things that it takes us away from the mission that we started things in the begin with. See, all churches at the end of the day, at least they should have the same mission. At one church, we say it this way. We're to work as one to help people follow Jesus. At River Glen, where I'm going, this is how they say it, to make more and better followers of Jesus. And look at every other Christian church, they're going to have mission statements, and I promise you, they're all going to say the same thing, but in different ways of saying it. Because our mission doesn't change. It's to be disciples who make more disciples of Jesus. But the way we do things, the model behind it, that can adapt and change. And that's why you see different churches, and I love this about God's church. They do things differently, and they have different ways of doing things, and different thoughts and traditions and plans. And it's an amazing example of God's people doing all what it takes, short of sin, to reach people for Jesus. So we're committed to the mission no matter what, but the model may change. So as we've been working behind the scenes, prepping for this change, this has kind of become the thinking of how one church needs to operate moving forward. And this morning is a little bit of a different of a talk. It's more of like a leadership talk, essentially. But I'm excited to share with you today the new model. Last week we went through the emotional stuff, and we can focus on the strategy and the model now. And I'm excited to share what this is going to look like moving forward. And the new model, just to be clear, we looked at lots of different options. And we looked at it from every angle we could. For a while, we just looked for a simple one-for-one replacement for me. We talked to our networks of churches. We talked to other churches individually. We talked to individuals and even say, hey, would you pray about this? Even consider becoming the pastor at one church after I would leave. And as we looked through all these things and talked to different people, none of these were working. They were all falling through for different reasons. And what I realized is what we were trying to do was just recreate the model. We just needed to replace me one for one and call it good. And honestly, for my own soul and like my own being, that would have been good for me. Like, cool, I'm good. We got one person. You guys are good luck after that. But I think what God did throughout this is challenge us to remember. The mission stays the same, but how you do it can change. And I was reminded to marry the mission, but date the model. And so the model maybe needed to change. And so the elders and I sat down and we met the day before that crazy blizzard in January. And so we're talking, and we looked through all the different avenues of what we could do as a church, just in case. And this was before I even said yes to this new role, but we were prepping just in case. What could this look like? And we looked for every different opportunity, every different option, and walked along through those together. And we realized that we had some different models to work with. And what we kind of came down to is we realized we didn't have one person to replace me. We actually had a bunch of people to replace me. And they were all right here in one church. And I'm so thankful for that. Now, to be clear, a lot of the people in leadership roles, they've been doing things for a while. They're staying in these roles, and we're thankful for that. And so as we move forward, and after Danielle and I and the boys move this summer in July, Sundays will still happen. Small groups will still happen. One kids will still happen. Community outreach will still happen. We'll still be known as the Chick-fil-A church, thank God. Deep Valley will still happen. Wildlife will still happen. And good news, there's works to figure out how to get Young Life going, which is the high school chapter as well. Everything is still going to happen. But how it will happen and with who it will happen, that is what's going to change, and the model needs to change. But we can do this, and you can do this, because God's been raising people up for this for a while. Now, I'm going to share some cool news with you, and I'm going to emphasize that what we're doing here, I'm going to focus on the new people taking on new roles at One Church. It's good. I'm really excited about this. So one, he's new, but he's not really new, he's old. It's Norm. He's not even here to defend himself. He was at the first service. But you know Norm, his wife Terry, Norm is an elder at the church. He is, in all honesty, he was an answered prayer for me a long time ago. I was praying for God out of COVID, like, I need some help, God. And Norm shows up. So it's kind of a funny joke, like I get Norm to deal with, but Norm's been an awesome help. But it just so happens that Norm has been working behind the scenes here, because Norm is prepping to retire from his career here in the next couple months. And he was wondering what was next. And he was actually had some other ministry opportunities he was being asked to explore outside of One Church, and then this whole situation happened. Now, for some prayer and conversation and talk amongst the other elders, Norm is going to be the interim campus pastor at One Church for now. And we're so excited about this, because if you know Norm, besides being very loud and boisterous, he is a shepherd at heart. He cares for people. And that's what his main role is going to be. He's going to be a pastor, a shepherd, to care. He is going to be someone, he's still going to be an elder to help guard the church, but he's going to serve to help provide pastoral care. He's going to provide some preaching and teaching on Sunday mornings here and there. His main role is to make sure the lead team, the leaders of all the ministries, has what they need to accomplish the ministries they're called to do. His job is to shepherd them and care for them. When you guys are in need of something and you don't have a small group that you're connected to help you, Norm will be your guy to talk to, just like you talk to me if you need help. But Norm will be that guy, and I'm so thankful for it. His job will continue to be to keep and build connections in our Chartiers Valley community, so we can keep serving and loving the community as best we can. He's going to do a lot of the week-to-week responsibilities that you don't see me doing, because I'm here by myself in my office a lot of times, just doing stuff, getting work done. He'll be able to accomplish that. He will cover a lot of what I've been doing, but not all of it. And this is where I'm actually weirdly excited, because it's a bunch of people taking over what I've been doing. And so we have Norm as the campus pastor, then we have this guy, and I'm really proud of this guy. That's Scott and his wife, Christy. You guys know Scott. He was my youth group kid in Wisconsin. He moved here. And just to be clear, I was terrified. His parents were to kill me when they found out this information, but they're very supportive. But Scott, I've been calling Scott my executive pastor since before we launched. In fact, we got in trouble by the Chartiers Valley Intermediate School for nonsense. It wasn't anything we did wrong, but we had to go to the school board, and we got summoned to the school board meeting. And I'm like, Scott, come with me as we get yelled at together. And I stood up, and I introduced Scott as my executive pastor, one, because it sounds really professional that way. But two, this is how I've always viewed him. As the guy who thinks strategically, as the guy who helps us plan through things, as the guy who will ask questions, but I know it's not personal questions, because he's just helping to make sure that we're focused on the mission and the strategy that we're setting out. And so Scott's always been this, and now he's officially going to be this as the executive pastor at One Church. He's going to continue being an elder to help guard the church like he's been, but he's going to do things like budget oversight and lead team overview and make sure our lead team's getting together to make sure they're on the same page and continue to work in the ministry and the mission that they're called to do. He's in charge of keeping the strategy going and working with the teams to adapt as necessary. And so after all this time, he officially gets to be the role that I've always dreamt that he would do. And then there's this guy who's new. There's Eddie, his wife Marissa. That's their dog Talbot. Go Pens. Eddie's the guy I tried to hire a long time ago, and now I officially succeeded. But Eddie's going to come on like an associate pastor. He's still going to be helping and working with Aaron in the worship world, doing creative art stuff and things like that. But he's going to join our lead team. He's going to start preaching some. In fact, in 2 Sundays from now, Eddie's going to be preaching his first message here at One Church to wrap up this series. And he has a very important message and story to share as it ties into this change and transition. And I encourage you to be here for it. He'll serve and help guide the church to stay on mission. And I'm really thankful for him and the role he's going to share. So he gets to help play a big part in this in the new model. And then we have Ashley Porneris with her awesome family. Tom, he helps serve in the worship team, and their boys Ethan and Lucas and Ashley. They've been a part of the church for years now, and Ashley's been on our lead team, and she's the one that makes sure that we're staying on point. And I'm so thankful for that because my mind goes elsewhere, other minds goes elsewhere. It's funny, Aaron and I can have a conversation and be way over there all of a sudden. So what happens? She keeps us on point. And she's also really good at communication and social media thinking. She's actually working behind the scenes right now on our new website. She's going to help oversee our app that we have. We have an app, but we're not publicizing it because it's got some work to do. But it's going to be coming out. But she's going to be in charge of communication and social media, and she's absolutely going to kill it in this role. And I'm so thankful for her and her family to help make the mission continue to happen with this new model. And Ashley's going to keep the rest of that team grounded because that's what she does. I'm so thankful for that. So these 4 are going to serve and play a huge role in replacing what I do. And I'm thankful for them. There's also one more, because with us leaving, Danielle's leaving, which means she's leaving behind the children's ministry role. And I'm really excited about this one because it's Nicole Whistle. Yeah, you guys are excited. It's been cool because as we've been wrestling with this, her name has come up multiple times for this role. And I bring it to the elders, they're like, yup. I mentioned it to the lead team. They're like, yup. And so it just felt right because they've been a part of this church since the week before the world shut down in 2020. And they've been a part, her and her husband, Mickey, and their boys, Michael and Kyler. They've been a part of this church for a while. And she will take this role as children's pastor from Danielle. And her and her husband will serve continually in this church. And we're so thankful for them. But she'll bring oversight and strategy to help One Church disciple the next generation. One Kids will keep happening. And her name had come up multiple times. And so when we sat down with her and Mickey to share the news about us leaving, it was full of tears and sadness, but they were super supportive through it all. But then I dropped an extra bomb on her by saying, hey, we also want you to take over Danielle's role. And it was kind of wild because both her and Mickey's jaws dropped and more tears started coming. And I'm like, what did we say wrong here? And it turns out that her and Mickey had been praying for a while about what life and purpose looks like for her. Because they have 2 young kids, and life changes when you have 2 young kids. What does work look like? What does purpose look like? What does life and following Jesus look like? And they were wondering what God had for them, for her to play a role that was bigger than herself. That was her words, not mine. I'm like, well, here you go. And so Nicole gets to play a role bigger than herself by leading our One Kids ministry. I'm so thankful for her and her family. In all of these roles, just to be clear, these are new roles. The old people are going to keep doing their thing, but these new roles will start over the next couple months. Between May and June is when all these people will start coming into these roles, and it's going to help us transition well. It's going to help us give time to train everybody up, to get them up and running and what they're doing. It's going to give us time to work through the blind spots. And here's what I'm asking for you right now from the rest of you as a church, is give some grace. Because it'll take some time to adapt and adjust. And there'll be some blind spots that we're not aware of yet until we get in these roles that we'll have to figure out. But we're doing this to make this transition as healthy as possible. And you'll start seeing these people going into these roles over the next couple months. And we're really, really thankful that God has led them to step up into these roles. Now, one other thing with this is there's still some gaps. Now, this covers just about everything that I do. here as the pastor at one church, except for networking and continuing to build connections with other churches, not just here in Pittsburgh, across the country, and also consistent preaching, because you see the guys who are preaching already. Aaron preaches, Eddie's going to start preaching, Norma's preached. We have other people who will preach for us, and it'll cover a good chunk of the preaching, but not all of it, and I'll get to that in a second. But with that, we've also had to make some adjustments in how we operate as a church. And so one of them I want to update you on is Northbridge, our partner church. Now, James has been aware of this whole thing throughout the whole process. I am so thankful for his friendship in this time, his leadership in this. And so after talking with him in Northbridge, we've decided to take a step back from that partnership for now to allow one church the space to operate and figure out these next steps for now. And Northbridge is stepping back so they can figure out what their next steps are, because my decision impacts them as well, because we were partnering together and I was going up there to preach multiple times. And so I realized that leaves a bit of a gap there. So we're just taking a step back to figure out our own separate plans moving forward. But it doesn't mean we're mad at each other. We stop communication. We still talk. We still communicate. Jamie and I have a standing meeting on Tuesdays every week via video call. We're talking through life and ministry and how we can continue to reach our Pittsburgh area. But we're just stepping back for now. But here's what's cool. As we've been going through this, River Glen, who's been partnering with us for 9 years, they said, hey, we're willing to step up in bigger ways if you need us to. And so River Glen has willingly stepped in to provide some more partnership with One Church, more than they've already been doing. And they've partnered with us by, financially for years. They've partnered with us by sending mission teams here to help One Church, and leadership and resources and all these different things. But as we talked, we realized there was a big gap of preaching. And so we started talking, and as technology is the way it is, and we actually learned this from Northbridge. I don't know if you know this, Northbridge pipes in their teaching pastor from Atlanta, Georgia, 35 plus times a year. They've been doing it for 18 years. And so we started talking, and we realized there was still a bit of a gap with preaching. And for now, what we're going to do is partner with River Glen. And every once in a while, we'll pipe in the sermons from River Glen via video. And what that means is when I'm up there getting my feet on the ground, you're still going to get stuck with me preaching here at One Church. And so I apologize. But what that's going to look like is every once in a while, I'll be growing in that role as I get up there. But we have the technology. We'll use it, and we'll pipe in Ben here and there, but then we'll pipe in me. And you'll do that, and the elders and the lead team will oversee this until it doesn't work anymore. Until you guys, the leadership, decides to pivot. But for now, what it's going to do is give One Church some stability. And so every role is covered. And preaching is covered too now. And so you'll still get to see my ugly mug and hear me preach every once in a while. And what it will do is we'll give One Church a longer runway to figure out what the effective way to reach the mission is. It just means we've changed the model for now. And we're thankful for that. This will help the leaders and you guys adapt as we go through the changes. But in all of this, what I want to remind you of is the message and the mission remains the same. The methods just change. And so here's our one thing for today. When the methods change, our job is to trust that God's message continues, and that's what we'll keep doing. It won't stop. One Church's mission is still to work as one to help people follow Jesus. And there will be roles for you to play in this. And that's next week's message. Next week, you're like, what am I doing? Next week, Norm and I are going to sit down together and do a little co-teaching to kind of share what that looks like for us and the model that One Church is moving into and how you play a vital role into this. But for now, I want you to remember this. Remember whose church this is. It's God's. It's not yours or mine. We just get the privilege of playing a part in it. And we have the invitation to join in God's work in One Church, in River Glen, or wherever we may be. And God has been working through change since the beginning, and I promise you He's not going to stop now. And this is the plan. And I'm confident in this plan. I would not stand up here if I wasn't confident in this plan. And to be honest, for a while, and this is just getting very real with you, I felt some terrible guilt and shame about this. Because I felt for a long time, how can I leave and as some words were put, abandon you? And how could I do this without someone to replace me, one for one? And what God has taught me in this is I have all of you to replace me. And you are more than equipped, more than capable, and more than called to do that. And the mission of One Church will continue because the people of One Church will continue the mission. Even when the model changes, the mission remains the same. Because at the end of the day, we will make much of Jesus. And we will do whatever it takes to help more people come to know and follow Jesus here at One Church, at River Glen, and across God's global church, because that is what our mission is. And no matter what that is, that mission will not change until God says, you know what, it's done. So we trust him in that, no matter what the model is. And each week when we gather, we're reminded of what our mission is. We're reminded that everything centers on Jesus. We're reminded that all the Old Testament was leading up to Jesus. And we're reminded that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John shows us and makes it about Jesus. And the rest of the scriptures and the rest of the history of the church is all about keeping it about Jesus. And so we, the church, our job is to keep it about Jesus. It's to keep the mission no matter the model. And so here's what we'll do. I'm going to pray. And we're going to take communion after this. And you have communion in the seat backs in front of you. You can take that. If you're in the front row, there's some communion little things on the speakers. If you're not really comfortable with communion, you can just reflect during this time. But the reminder is this is all about Jesus. And that's what communion brings us back to every week. So you can stand with me and we'll pray and we'll take communion. But God, we thank you for your church, your mission, and your ways. And God, you have worked through different models and adapted through different changes for thousands of years, God, and you'll never stop doing that. So God, in the midst of change, remind us as the church, your church, to stay on mission and be willing to adapt and change as needed. And I thank you for the people at One Church and the serving they do and the roles they play. God, I thank you for the people at One Church taking steps into new roles moving forward. And ultimately, I thank you for your faithfulness that you've already decided what you're doing with One Church before any of us ever stepped foot in One Church. It's your ways, your mission. Remind us of that daily, God. In your name we pray. Amen. So together, we take the bread that represents the body of Jesus that was broken for you and me together as one. And together we drink the juice that represents the blood that was shed for you and me together as one. And together we worship God in this truth. It's all about Jesus. However we have to keep that on mission, we'll do that. Let's sing one more song as we wrap this up.
Your love is devoted like a ring of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain and beyond the horizon. Mercy for today, faithful you have been, faithful you will be. You've pledged yourself to me, and it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. You father the orphan, your kindness makes us whole, and you shoulder our weakness, and your strength becomes our own. you're making me like you, clothing me in white, bringing beauty from ashes. For you will have your bride, free of all her guilt and rid of all her shame, and known by her true name. And it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. You will be praised, you will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised, you will be praised. With angels and saints we sing, worthy are you, Lord. And it's why I sing your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. So God, thank you so much for being a God of consistency, a God who's still there through it all, and that you provided for us a foundation for which we can put our faith on, build our church on, and move forward with. And that is your death and resurrection. So we thank you for being the God that we are, that you are. So let us be the church that you need us to be moving forward. Help us to go emboldened by that foundation of your death and resurrection. Pray all of this in your name. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Go grab a goodie downstairs. You guys are dismissed. Have a fantastic rest of your Sunday.